for raising it. The Metropolitan Police Department, with the support of the new federal agencies who have been surging on the streets of the District of Columbia, are going to enforce the laws that are already on the books here in Washington, D.C. For far too long, these laws have been completely ignored, and the homelessness problem has ravaged the city. So D.C. Code 22-1307 and D.C. Municipal Regulation 24-100 give the Metropolitan Police Department the authority to take action when it comes to homeless encampments. So homeless individuals will be given the option to leave their encampment, to be taken to a homeless shelter, to be offered addiction or mental health services, and if they refuse, they will be susceptible to fines or to jail time. Again, these are pre-existing laws that are already on the books. They have not been enforced, which is part of the reason for this federalizing of the National Guard to bring in this assistance for law enforcement. While we are targeting criminals and trying to remove criminals off of the streets, we also want to make DC safe and beautiful, and that involves removing mentally disturbed individuals and homeless encampments as well. So we will be using these regulations and code that already exists to clean up our streets, and we've already had great success. Not many of you picked up on this, but the United States Park Police has actually done remarkable work in terms of removing homeless encampments from the city. Since the president signed this executive order in March, 70 homeless encampments have been removed by the U.S. Park Police. There are only 2 homeless encampments remaining in D.C. federal parks under the National Park Service's jurisdiction, and the removal of those 2 remaining camps is scheduled for this week. So the U.S. Park Police will be leading this effort alongside MPD.
Just very quickly, he had talked in one of his social media posts about moving them very far outside of the city. Is that off?
Nope, it's not off. We're exploring how we could do that. But again, homeless shelters, offered addiction and mental health services, or jail if they refuse are the options on the table right now, and we'll continue to explore that option.
Sure. Thank you so much, Caroline. President Zelensky said moments ago that he thinks Russia is preparing for a new offensive on at least 3 different areas of the front line. Is this something that you could confirm based on U.S. intelligence? And if the president sees that Putin is indeed planning major new offensive or moving troops, would he call off the meeting on Friday?
I'm not in a position to confirm or deny or comment on that intel at this time. Monica?
Thanks, Caroline. My question involves Russiagate. A whistleblower alleges that Congressman Adam Schiff approved leaking classified information to smear President Trump's image during the Russiagate scandal. Does the president plan to investigate Adam Schiff, and what would accountability look like if more information confirms this report?
The president has already said he wants to see Adam Schiff held accountable for the countless lies he told the American people in relation to the Russiagate scandal. I brought Tulsi Gabbard out to this podium to talk to you about all of that, and this administration is taking accountability very seriously. As for this new FBI whistleblower report, I understand Kash Patel last night declassified a 302 FBI document showing that a whistleblower who is a Democrat, a career intelligence officer who worked for Democrats on the House Intel Committee for more than a decade, repeatedly warned the FBI in 2017 that then Rep. Adam Schiff had approved leaking classified information to smear then President Donald Trump over the Russiagate scandal. This is obviously a bombshell whistleblower report. Hopefully more people in this room will cover it as such. And I have a quote from the FBI director for all of you. He has said this: "For years, certain officials used their positions to selectively leak classified information to shape political narratives. It was all done with one purpose: to weaponize intelligence and law enforcement for political gain. Those abuses eroded public trust in our institutions. The FBI will now lead the charge with our partners at DOJ, and Congress will have the chance to uncover how political power may have been weaponized and to restore accountability." That's what the administration is focused on, and hopefully we'll see some more media reports on this whistleblower allegation. If this were reversed, if this were allegations against the president or any of these cabinet officials, I'm sure everyone in this room would cover it as such. Elizabeth, go ahead.
Thanks, Caroline. After yesterday's action to federalize the DC police, is the president still interested in working with Congress to end the Home Rule Act? Something you talked about in the past. Senator Mike Lee has a bill on it. Is that something he's still interested in?
The president is very much still interested in working with Congress to address many of the issues that have plagued Washington, D.C., such as the cashless bail policy, which has been a complete disaster for the city. Juvenile delinquency is another major problem in the city that Congress can address. So I know Congress is on recess right now. When they get back to work to Washington, this president looks forward to having these conversations with our friends on Capitol Hill so we can work with them to make D.C. safe and beautiful again. And again, we encourage Democrats to join us in this effort. Perhaps their approval ratings would move up a little bit if they did. I saw a new poll today. Democrat approval rating is at an all-time low, 32%. If they could just stand by the basic notion of law and order, perhaps they would see that tick up a bit, and we welcome them to do that. Dasha.
Thanks, Caroline. President Trump yesterday at this podium indicated this, so has NATO Secretary General Mark Rutte, that in order for peace to happen, it is very likely that Ukraine will have to cede some land to Russia. Zelensky has repeatedly said no land for peace. That's not going to happen. Has this administration communicated to Zelensky that he's going to have to change that position?
Look, I appreciate your asking that question in a different way than your colleague Michael in the back. I don't want to get into the details of these negotiations and these discussions that have taken place out of respect for where we are right now, and I'll let the president speak on it further if he wishes to.
One more about Israel. I know the president has had a call with Prime Minister Netanyahu recently. Netanyahu is planning to seize the remainder of Gaza City. What is the administration's position on this move by Israel's government?
Look, this is an incredibly complex and complicated war that, again, was inherited by this president, by his predecessor, Joe Biden. October 7th was one of the worst days in history. We saw innocent people slaughtered, murdered, kidnapped by Hamas terrorists. This administration has taken extensive time and effort and resources since Inauguration Day in January to end this conflict. We have given many flexible arrangements backed by Israel to Hamas, and unfortunately, Hamas has never agreed. Looking ahead, I will let the president speak on where he sees this going, but this is, of course, an incredibly complex and complicated situation. The administration has made our goal clear. We want to see this conflict end. We want to see the hostages released, and we've tried. The president and his national security team have given extensive effort and time to doing that.
With how Israel has used those resources and the assistance that you've provided?
Look, I'll let the president speak on the further actions that Israel may or may not be taking. Good to see you.
Good to see you as well, Caroline. Thank you. The Kremlin is expressing interest that Friday's meeting will move beyond just terms to end the war into improving bilateral relations. There's talk over how they're interested in potentially restoring direct flights between Russia and the United States. Is President Trump open to those kind of peripheral conversations, or is this directly focused on ending the war in Ukraine?
I think this conversation on Friday is focused on ending the war in Ukraine as far as the president's perspective goes. Those conversations, I think the president is interested in having, but his main priority right now is ending this war and to stop the killing that has gone on for far too long. You're welcome. In the back, go ahead.
Yeah, two questions on the economy. So first, we've had small businesses tell us that it's not foreign exporters who are eating the tariffs, it's them. And they've held off on raising prices, but soon they're going to have to raise prices. What is the White House's message to them?
The White House's message to our small business owners across the country is you have never had a better ally or friend or supporter in this White House than President Donald Trump, who is a businessman himself, who understands your concerns and who wants to restore wealth back to our country through the powerful use of tariffs. And that's what he's focused on doing, while simultaneously driving down costs. You have to remember, we are 6 months into this administration, and we had a president who had no business experience, had no idea what he was doing, and who funneled billions of wasteful spending dollars into our economy, which created the worst inflation crisis in a generation. Now this president is focused on tackling inflation, deregulating, cutting costs, cutting red tape to make it easier for small business owners to thrive. And again, the economic indicators show that we are moving in the right direction. In January, when this president showed up to the White House, the 6-month annualized core inflation rate was 3.7%. Today, 6 months later, the the 6-month annualized core inflation rate is 2.4%. So we are trending in the right direction. Moving forward, since President Trump took office, for another 6 months, inflation will be tracking at 1.9%. At this trajectory, you look at grocery prices, they fell, energy prices fell, fuel oil fell, ship fares fell, propane fell, butter, margarine, eggs, non-prescription drugs. You go through the list of items that are falling. And then I would also point to that report this morning showing that small business optimism has reached a 5-month high. So look, we inherited an economic mess from the previous administration, but this administration is focused on fixing it every day, and part of that is signing the largest tax cuts into law to put more money back into the pockets of these small business owners.
Just on the BLS, they collect the inflation data, obviously. If the jobs data is not reliable, should Americans trust the inflation data?
Well, look, the jobs data has had massive revisions. We want to ensure that all of the data, the inflation data, the jobs data, any data point that is coming out of the BLS is trustworthy and is accurate, which is why the president has restored new leadership at the BLS. Sure, go ahead. Yeah, okay.
Thank you. Gavin Newsom has said that California is going to sue in response to the government's demand for $1 billion from UCLA over the DOJ's anti-Semitism findings. Newsom has called this extortion and ransom, so I'm wondering what the White House's response is to Newsom on UCLA.
Bring it on, Gavin. This administration is well within its legal right to do this, and we want to ensure that our colleges and our universities are respecting the First Amendment rights and the religious liberties of students on their campuses, and UCLA has failed to do that. And I have a whole list of examples that I will forward to Gavin Newsom's press office if he hasn't seen them himself. Brett.
Thanks, Caroline. What was the reason that President Trump chose to move on from Billy Long as IRS commissioner?
Look, I think the president wants to see Billy Long as the ambassador to Iceland. As you know, that is where he will be headed, and the president loves Billy Long, and he thinks that he can serve the administration well in this position. For now, Secretary Scott Bessent will be the acting IRS commissioner.
Timeline for announcing a new pick?
Go ahead.
Thank you.
Oh, Ed, go ahead, but then in the back, yes.
Go in the back first.
Okay, sure.
Thanks, Caroline.
One ladies first.
One foreign policy and then one domestic question, if I may. There are roughly 30,000 children from Ukraine who have reportedly been abducted and are kind of dispersed around Russia. They've been showing up on these websites for adoption. Is their return a red line for the president in any deal ending the war?
The administration is aware of these reports. I don't want to set red lines for the president on his behalf from this podium. However, the president did encourage Ukraine and Russia to speak directly to one another in terms of these humanitarian issues, and we have seen progress. You have seen prisoners of war swapped between these two countries as a result of these direct talks, as well as children, and that remains a concern, but it's one that Russia and Ukraine need to iron out together, which is why this president has encouraged them to speak.
And then if I can,
sure.
The DC action real quick. The president said yesterday that this is a model federalizing the National Guard that could be used to combat really high rates of crime in other cities like Chicago, LA, Baltimore. What sort of authority would he have to deploy forces like that absent the Home Rule Act?
Look, the president is speaking about what he'd like to see take place in other cities around the country. Right now, this administration is focused on making DC safe and beautiful again. When the time comes, we'll talk about that. But I will note that the president wants to see all of our nation's cities be safe. But I think starting with our nation's capital is a great place to begin, and it should serve as a model for the rest of the country.
Just to button up a few of the DC things, because a lot of them have been asked, but in talking with Congress about potential changes to the home rule and whatever else, would he also push the House to finally pass DC's budget so that it has access to all that money that it does need for policing, for schools, and for other services here in the city?
Yes, and as you know, he has done that. He put out a statement calling on the House to take up the Senate's legislation, and he stands by that position.
Let me take you back to something from last month. You guys announced the president was diagnosed with chronic venous insufficiency after his legs were seen swelling. How's he being treated for that? And while you were upfront about those health issues, curious if the White House would be willing to let us speak with his physician directly about those health issues. I know there were a lot of concerns about the last White House not making the physician available. Would the physician be available in this case?
I don't want to make that commitment on behalf of the physician, but it's certainly something we can look into and explore out of the effort of transparency, because unlike the previous White House, there is nothing to hide. You guys see this president working around the clock, literally 24/7, all of the time, and I will be happy to look into that request.
Can we at least get an update on how he's being treated for the swelling legs and for the hands and the other issues?
Look, you see the president every day. He's moving, he's working, he's continuing. There have been no adjustments made to his lifestyle.
Hey, Carolyn, I have two questions, one on DC, but on the Putin meeting on Friday, does the president plan to meet with Putin one-on-one?
Yes, that's part of the plan. And as for the other mechanics and logistics, I will let our team speak to that when they're ironed out.
And on what's happening in DC with the federal takeover, what we've heard from the mayor and the police chief is that their understanding is there has been no change in the leadership structure. In the White House's view, who is in charge of the MPD right now?
If you read the executive order, it will tell you the leadership structure is as follows. We plan to work with the Metropolitan Police Department, but ultimately the chain of command is as such. The President of the United States, the Attorney General of the United States, our DEA Administrator, Terry Cole, who is now serving ahead of the Chief of the Metropolitan Police Department. They will be working together. Nope, Terry Cole, as you heard from this briefing room yesterday, is in charge of the Metropolitan Police Department, and he's working with the chief to ensure that law enforcement officers are allowed to do their jobs in this city.
Caroline?
Yeah, thanks, Caroline. I know you said earlier the hope is to maintain monthly job reports, but the president's new nominee for BLS Commissioner E.J. Antoni recently told Fox Business that the BLS should suspend issuing monthly job reports and only issue quarterly reports until the jobs data methodology is corrected. So does the president disagree with that assessment that his nominee is said there, or suspending these monthly job reports a real option?
I think he floated the idea of possibly suspending until they can get the data and the methodology in order. And this president wants to ensure that the BLS, again, is putting out accurate and honest data that the American people can trust. Since you brought up the new commissioner, he holds a master's and doctor's degree in economics from Northern Illinois University. He's the chief economist in the Heritage Foundation's Center for the Federal Budget. And in addition to his work at Heritage, he has multiple other roles. He's been widely renowned for his work on economic issues. He's been called before Congress to testify as an economic expert. So he's a qualified individual, and the president trusts him to lead this important department. I think a couple more questions. Sure, go ahead.
Given that the administration now has jurisdiction over MPD, can we expect, does that mean like personnel changes, hiring, firing? Can we expect leadership changes internally in the Metropolitan Police Department?
I just walked through what the leadership structure looks like right now.
Within the uniformed police department, right? I mean, does that mean that the Attorney General, others kind of have the ability to make those personnel decisions?
I would imagine it means they have the ability. As for any changes, I'm not tracking any. Again, we look forward to working alongside the Metropolitan Police Department, and we did that last night successfully, and we hope we can do that for the next 29 nights. Go ahead. Yes.
So a lot of reports that ICE agents detained a 15-year-old student with disabilities outside an LA high school, even leaving bullets on the sidewalk. How does the Trump administration plan to ensure parents that their children can return to school without fear of being wrongfully detained or endangered by federal agents?
Where'd you see that report?
LA Times.
Okay, well, I'll have to look into the veracity of that report. I read the LA Times almost every single day, and they are notorious for misleading the public. I'm sure there's more to that story than the way that you just characterized it. This administration wants to ensure that all school children across the country in every city from Los Angeles to DC can go to school safely, and that's part of this administration's effort to federalize the National Guard in Washington to ensure that ICE is removing child predators. I just read you a list of a handful, just a handful, of the hundreds of thousands of child predators that this administration is removing off of the streets of Los Angeles and every other community across this country, because we want to ensure this is a country where American school children can be safe, where they can prosper, and where they are not threatened by violent criminals, whether they are illegal or whether they are American citizen homegrown criminals, as this president calls them. So I will gladly go check on that report, and I'll get you the facts. Thank you, everyone.
Voilà, c'était donc secrétaire du président Caroline Leavitt qui était lui-même dans en d'un cas blanche là avec journalistes après répondre questions et également partager avec eux information que le gagné beaucoup de sujets de discuter en pile point abordé là-dedans rencontre si là. D'abord, on nous regarde pour nous localement la question de Washington, comment la gérer, comment chaîne de commande là, les vini hier journée jeudi. C'est d'abord le chef de l'État, ensuite Madame Pembandi qui c'est ministre justice là. Chef police métro, lui-même li censé ap travail sous direction l'autre chef que autorité au fait placer là. Qu'en est-il de la mairesse de la ville? Nous partendons au palais de lui. Cela veut dire que il pas fait partie de chaîne de commande, il pas fait partie de moun et soit capé décider ou bien probablement il a pu travailler ensemble avec lui pour prendre décision concernant gestion ville si là. Chef d'État américain l'était annoncé que la ville de Washington DC côté gouvernement li siégé sont mesqueliers et crime là-dedans, insécurité, drogue dealer, c'est yo qui gen contrôle ville si là. C'est pour raison ça yo décidé prendre li sous contrôle l'État fédéral là. Donc madame Pembandi en matière de justice, c'est le premier monde qui concerné dans dossier si là. Comment y a peut poursuivre qu'est-ce qui gagne déjà yo, ça il était à suivre. Mais reste là, il était fait comprendre que madame Bozet, il était fait comprendre que gagner une décision, yo pas capable blâmer autorité locale yo parce que l'État fédéral là moun que le place yo, c'est yo qui gagne pour faire suivi yo. Dès qu'il s'agit de arrestation pour suivre moun qui gagne mandat derrière tout une série de dossiers, eh bien, c'est l'État fédéral là par moyen représentant que li nommé yo qui gagne pour faire suivi si là. Si yo pas fait responsable local yo pas responsable selon la mairesse. Et puis, yo dit tout, contradiction, c'est que taux de criminalité que chef l'État a parlé, il descend considérablement. Tout le monde constate peut-être seulement hiérarchie administration dans la plan qui pas fait constat. Si là, selon Mme Bozet qui t'a pu répondre une question journaliste, comment coopération, il est prêt pour le travail ensemble avec eux, il est prêt pour le bailler information, pour le recevoir information dans mais tout, il connaît chef l'État, il gagne autorité pour le prendre des décisions, cependant, il doit faire dans tête collée. C'est pas Jean Louis que le fait là, ça qui passe là, ce bagaille que yo pas ouais dans temps avant yo, selon la mairesse de la ville de Washington DC. Je dis, gagner 800 militaires pour plus petit que yo prévoit pour déployer souterrain si là ensemble avec garde nationale tout qui déjà là qui est responsable maintenant la question de sécurité. Ou fait que madame Nassou dit que quel que soit moun que y a petit moun ou bien grand moun qui t'a impliqué dans des actes malhonnêtes, eh bien c'est pour la responsabilité de l'État pour que li ramène yo à l'ordre. L'autre sujet qui est abordé, qui dit que c'est important là-dedans, conférence, c'est la question de la relation américaine avec Russie dans le cadre des démarches qui va faite pour Chita parler concernant la paix entre Ukraine ensemble avec la Russie. Vendredi qui vient là, chef d'État américain, qui pour arriver dans la cour Alaska, c'est pas qui était peut-être bien bonnet jeudi comme ça, il va arriver dans la cour Alaska et rencontrer dans un sommet américano-russe, chef d'État américain dans la tour ensemble avec le président russe Vladimir Poutine, il va chita pour discuter. Principal sujet à lui concerner la question de l'Ukraine et Russie dans le cadre de combat que il y a. Cependant, il y a l'autre point qui aussi a venu sous table puisque États-Unis par rapport à comportement là aussi, t'es annoncé sanctions sur India qui a acheté pétrole dans mes Russie pour le mettre sur le marché international là. États-Unis qui demandé à ce que yo isoler la Russie, demandé à India comme amis pour suspendre acheter pétrole ça dans la Russie, et bien gouvernement India a dit forget about it, yo besoin ni parce que yo fait profit là-dedans et yo t'es déjà gagné rapport ça avec la Russie, yo pas camper parce que yo il y a un rapport militaire ensemble avec quel pays? Les États-Unis. États-Unis, par voie président, il réagit pour dire que il a augmenté tarif douanier de 25%, then les salles pour passer de 25 à 50%. Indien yo pas dit rien sur cause de là jusqu'à ce que l'équipe Poutine n'a censé répondre à l'arrivée de l'envoyé spécial du président américain. Il a parlé de M. Witkoff pour que il était capable travailler question chita parler si là et bien il a tout annoncé que pour gagner chita parler ça les soldats sont obligés postpone décision que t'a prend qui doit livrer pour petit crasse plus loin décision que t'a prend pour que yo capable aller là dans chita parler et c'est ça qui pral fait journée jeudi pour que yo capable discuter de situation ça qu'a traversé Ukraine ensemble avec pays la Russie. Chef l'État, bon côté pas dans la conférence de presse que le débat, il était déjà annoncé et que sous supervision ou bien aide financière que une série de pays bail dans zone Europe là, il était décidé retourner bail une série de bourrades militaires à pays Ukraine, bourrades que l'Ukraine était perdu. Et dans le moment que il était perdu là, il était annoncé ça bon côté autorité américaine, là aussi était tout profité pour le bombarder avec une certaine intensité qui part là comme avant pour lui et bombarder territoire ukrainien pour capable accaparer l'autre terre encore. Donc les vient décider bail bourrade militaire ça à pays Ukraine et bien l'été étant trop tard là aussi était mettre pied bien fond dans territoire ukrainien dans zone island selon information et c'est ça que fait chef l'État lui fait comprendre que puisque terre ça qui en bas mais là aussi ces zones qui est censé plus profitable sur le plan économique à ukrainien parce que c'est là où il y a en pile d'eau en pile la mer mais monsieur dit qu'on y a discuté avec la Russie pour voir si tu capable récupérer un peu là dehors pour pays Ukraine mais il pas jamais dit là pour récupérer tout et c'est là balan li blessé c'est la situation les plus compliquée entre Donald Trump ensemble avec Vladimir Poutine qui jeudi à position de force que lié dans zone est ukrainienne avec l'armée russe bali au plus autorité pour le chita négocier et que ça va mettre autorité ukrainienne dans une situation beaucoup plus difficile parce que il a perdu plus terre que moun te ka prévoir dans cadre combat c'est là entre Ukraine ensemble avec la Russie. C'est comme ça situation vigné jeudi là à la veille de chita parler ça qui va faire d'ici vendredi dans la cour Alaska dans pays les États-Unis d'Amérique. L'autre question qui est abordée encore, c'est les affaires immigration ou bien ICE qui a pu poursuivre arrestation et bien au fait comprendre que ICE là lui-même tout li prêt pour continuer à arrêter moun dans la cour Washington également quel que soit moun qui t'a enfreint une loi. OK gagné gouverneur Shapiro qui gagne un recours pour organiser là avec une série de monde surtout après que gagné yon industrie côté que gagne style là-dedans qui te prend du feu, gagne deux monde qui mourent avec une quantité d'autres qui blessés. Gouverneur a dit il va rencontrer non seulement avec autorités locales il va aussi rencontrer avec employés il besoin connaît plus information. Voilà, responsable. Monsieur dit il besoin connaît plus, il besoin connaît en détail ça qui passé à qui ça quelqu'un a fait dans le cadre recouvrement zone ça, industrie ça qui frappé avec la mort de employés plus une quantité l'autre qui est arrivé blessé. Ça c'est responsabilité, ça c'est leadership. Vous comprenez? Puis déplacer pour le cas gagner plus d'informations, pour le cas connaître plus ça qui passe. Donc dans la Coupe Pennsylvania, jeudi là, n'a faut connaître que autorité a pu parler de situation si là qui est arrivé le bois côté que industrie ça li frappé avec employés qui mourent plus d'autres qui arrivé blessé dans cadre incident si là. Et puis, chef l'État continue à battre bravo pour l'administration qui fait beaucoup dans les affaires négociations, mais comme nous t'ai dit déjà, par exemple, pour zone Europe là, avec l'autre pays, tel que le pays tchad particulièrement, ils ont obligé de prolonger ou bien postponer deadline qui était gagné pour que ils mettent tarif douanier en application. Vous comprenez? Go nèg avec go nèg. Bah la façon que vous traitez. OK? C'est comme ça, situation liée. Pour le moment, est-ce que nous pouvons permettre de gagner une idée des déclarations qu'a faites dans le cadre de rencontre si là, on a laissé regarder pour nous? Oui, donc
Our thoughts and prayers and hearts are with the employees here at US Steel, with the members of USW, their family and friends, in the entire community of Clarendon and communities throughout the Mon Valley.
I'm here to provide an update of the role that Allegheny County played in being on site here yesterday and today. But before I get into that, I want to offer some gratitude with the folks who were involved in emergency response yesterday. We had dozens of local agencies respond, and we are so grateful to the work that the first responders did to do their best to remove people from the site and get them the medical care that they needed. We are also joined today by a number of elected officials from all levels of government, Congresswoman Lee, Senator Piscatano, Rep. Gogenauer, Rep. Ingalls, Clarendon Mayor Latanzi, and PEMA Director Padfield. It was an incredible lift from our county departments yesterday under the direction of Chief Brown with Emergency Services and Superintendent Kearns from Allegheny County Police. They were on site to work with local responders, to coordinate response, to work with U.S. Steel and the employees to gather information to determine what happened yesterday. And I have assurance from U.S. Steel that they will continue to cooperate fully with our team at Allegheny County to get the information we need to do a thorough investigation. I think we all share a common goal that we want to get to the bottom of what happened, and we want to prevent it from ever happening again. So at this time, we do have an ongoing investigation that is active, and we can share some information around that. I also want to touch on the air quality and some notes from our Department of Health. So, yesterday, after the explosion, we did watch the air quality monitors at Clairton, Liberty, and North Braddock. I do have to say they all showed levels of PM 2.5 and sulfur dioxide to be within the national ambient air quality limits throughout the event yesterday and today. Further, hydrogen sulfide levels were also low and below the state's nuisance threshold level. So good signs. We are appreciative of the governor for sending in additional resources from DEP so that we can do some additional monitoring. Yesterday we did issue, because of an abundance of caution, a stay-at-home order, and that was lifted early in the evening. We currently do have Allegheny County Health Department contractors on site doing routine inspections of the coking operations today. We did have 2 Allegheny County Health Department employees on site yesterday during the explosion. Both are okay and have returned home safely. Because it's an active investigation, we are going to focus on getting the information that we need and ensure long-term compliance with the permit conditions that regulate the Clarendon Coke Works. And I just have to, again, express my gratitude to all the departments across Allegheny County, from the police to emergency services, to our health department, to our medical examiner's office. They've all done a tremendous job to bring professionalism and resources to this tragic event. And events like this are extremely difficult, and it also brings people together as a community. And I have to express my gratitude to Governor Shapiro for, again, contacting me once it happened to ensure that we were given any resources we needed from the state in order to pursue our rescue mission and to complete this investigation. So I want to thank Governor Shapiro for being here, and I'm going to invite him up to the podium to provide some remarks.
Let me begin where the county executive led off. I think it is important to note her appreciation for all of the different departments here in Allegheny County that responded to this tragedy here at the Clarendon Coke Works. I think it is also critically important to not just thank them, the first responders that ran toward danger, but to thank your county executive who was in charge of this emergency, who handled it effectively, who brought all of the resources to bear in order to be able to address the needs of this community. The county executive and I spoke multiple times yesterday. I thought she did an extraordinary job in really difficult circumstances, and we appreciate her leadership here. I want to say just how thankful I am to each and every first responder, to each and every member of the United Steelworkers who literally every day go forward in their jobs to help build this region, build this Commonwealth.
All right, as you see, they're just getting a brief.
Pardon, pour fournir des détails autour de démarches qui a faites pour que yo capable rencontrer victimes, parents victimes yo dans cadre accident ça qui arrivé hier dans yon plante, dans style plante dans la cour Pennsylvania côté que gagné deux monde qui perdu la vie, une quantité l'autre qui blessé qui boulé qui l'hôpital qui prend soin que kayo li nécessité. Et puis, qui ça que nous avons dit pour nous aller, il faut connaître que l'autorité américaine, non seulement ont pensé avec une commission task force qui a pu participer dans le cadre de l'organisation de grands événements sportifs, à savoir la Coupe du Monde de l'année prochaine et les Jeux Olympiques dans environ 3 ans, soit c'est dans l'année 2028, et que California, lycée siège pour réaliser les Jeux Olympiques de l'année 28 là, avec États-Unis qui gagne le vent en poupe, autorité américaine yo mette campé la commission ça cap travail qui gagne là-dedans, président Pembandi, Pete Hexet avec l'autre corps, yo tout yo gagné pour travailler dans chaîne commande ça qui gagne avec organisation Jeux Olympiques de l'année 2028. Merci tout le monde, déjà 2h05, nous comptons pour nous desservir. Nous espérons que je un peu plus tard, pas oublier à 11h30, c'est heure de combat. Madame, c'est Félix Majouri, là-bas avec vous, quand même, Malé.